Around 9 p.m. on May 3, 2010, at Xishan Square, a bustling center in the city of Nanchung, Sichuan Province, China. In front of many witnesses, 3 men wearing baseball caps kidnapped a man, dragged him into a Citroën car, and drove away. Earlier, a woman trying to protect the kidnapped man was attacked, causing her to faint on the spot. After regaining consciousness, the woman hurriedly called the police to report the incident. Hello to all viewers on the Dark Cases of Asia channel. What secrets lie behind such a daring kidnapping? Why did these criminals target this man, and who is he? All will be revealed in this video. Please follow us as we uncover the answers to all these questions in this video. If you enjoy our case presentation, please comment with a number 1. If not, just like the video. Before diving into the main content, the Dark Cases of Asia would like to thank you for visiting. Support us by subscribing to our channel to motivate us to continue bringing more thrilling cases from around the world. Now let's dive into the details of today's case. The woman who reported the case to the police at 110 is Du-yoon. She said she was the girlfriend of the kidnapped man, Wen Li. Upon receiving the kidnapping report, the police immediately went to the scene at Xishan Square to clarify the situation. Upon arrival, Du-yoon recounted that evening, when Li was driving her on a tour from Taoxiang Street to Huangfeng Street, and the two of them arrived at Xishan Square. After getting out of the car, they walked for about 15 minutes when she suddenly noticed a man wearing a baseball cap stealthily following them just a few meters behind. She immediately told Wen Li to return to the car quickly. Wen Li immediately began walking briskly with her towards the car parked near the square. However, when they were just 3 to 4 meters from the car, suddenly from the front, a man wearing a baseball cap rushed up, grabbed Wen Li by the collar, and dragged him towards the Citroën car parked next to a pickup truck. At the same time, another man jumped down from the front passenger seat of the Citroën, used a steel wire to strangle Wen Li from behind. These 2 men together pulled Wen Li strongly towards the open back door of the Citroën. Wen Li struggled and shouted, "Let me go! What are you doing?" Du-yoon also screamed, "Kidnapping! Help me!" She rushed to hug Wen Li tightly. At that moment, the man who had just jumped off the car restrained Wen Li with the steel wire, then lunged at Du-yoon, locked her neck with his hands, causing her to suffocate and faint, and then threw her forcefully to the ground. Recognizing this as a violent kidnapping that disregarded the security system, local authorities and the police department paid special attention to this case. Vice Mayor and Director of Jialong City Public Security Bureau, Zhang Qiwei, directly directed the investigation, requiring the city's police and Xuankang District Police to establish a special task force to quickly solve the case. On the evening of May 3rd, the police retrieved surveillance video at Xishan Square, discovering that 3 young men wearing baseball caps had kidnapped Wen Li. On May 4th, the Jialong District Police announced the discovery of a black Citroën car with Beijing license plate E1778 on a section of National Highway 318 near Shin-Gan Bridge in Lila Village, Jialong. The car had been parked there for a day without anyone claiming it, and there were bloodstains on the back seat. Through surveillance footage at Xishan Square and the traffic camera system around the area, as well as in-depth investigations of witnesses on the night of the incident and comprehensive analysis, the police identified the driver of the Citroën in the kidnapping as Bai-Ching Dao, also known as Bai Juan, a notorious gangster. Born on December 27, 1982, in Do Village, Xinmiao Township, Jialong District, Nanchung City, he had previously served 8 months in prison for illegal detention. After his release, he continued to recruit other gangsters for illegal activities. Recognizing that Bai-Ching Dao and the other 3 were seriously involved in the case, the Special Task Force immediately arrested them on the afternoon of May 6. Bai-Ching Dao and his 2 accomplices, Ren Guangming and Du Jin Dao, were arrested in a rented room in Jinshuan Street, Xuankang District, while they were watching adult films. After being taken to the police station, Bai-Ching Dao confessed to following the orders of B.u.r.y to kill Wen Li and even pointed out the location where the body was hidden. According to Bai-Ching Dao's confession, the police immediately searched for Wen Li's body and found him buried under a tree in a ravine. The forensic examination concluded that Wen Xianli died from severe head trauma. Based on By Cheng Dao's confession, the special task force continued to pursue B.u.r.y using technical measures. At 5 p.m. on May 18th, B.u.r.y was arrested while fishing by the Wujiang River in Tito Village, Sanhe Township, Xiuning City, Guizhou Province. At the time, he was talking on the phone with a woman. After B.u.r.y was arrested, he initially took full responsibility for hiring people to kill Wen Xianli. However, after several interrogations, the police found weaknesses in B.u.r.y's statements and pressured him to reveal the truth. B.u.r.y quickly admitted that Yulin, Wen Xianli's wife, had ordered him to kill her husband. He explained that he did it out of admiration for Yulin, believing she was great and that Wen Xianli deserved to die for what he had done to her. He claimed he did not do it for money, as Yulin only gave him 20,000 yuan, which was not enough to cover the costs of preparing for the act. Additionally, he had paid 50,000 yuan to By Cheng Dao to prepare for the case. B.u.r.y also revealed that his nephew, Luo Dingzhen, and a person named Lian Shi were also involved in the case. Both were arrested. With this information, on the morning of May 21st, the police quickly arrested Yulin and brought her to the station for interrogation to clarify the entire situation. After being arrested, Yulin fully confessed to her actions. All her statements matched the investigation process, evidence collection from Wen Xianli's relatives, and his family relationships with Yulin. For half a month, they meticulously studied all documents, criminal behaviors, and collected related evidence, along with the confessions from the perpetrators who directly attacked Wen Xianli during the previous investigation and Yulin's confession. The police learned that she was born on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month in 1964 in Rixing Town, Yilong County, Sichuan Province. Her father was the leader of the town's cooperative, and her mother was a primary school teacher. In 1982, at the age of 18, after graduating from the intermediate normal school, she became a teacher at Rixing Primary School. During the Mid-Autumn Festival in 1984, on her 20th birthday, under her parents' arrangement, Yulin married Zhao Tai-ren, a young employee working with her father. In 1987, they had their first daughter named Zhao Jiaman. Zhao Tai-ren later became the legal representative of the Rixing Supply and Marketing Cooperative. As his career flourished, he devotedly cared for his wife and daughter, but Yulin's arrogant personality always viewed it as a forced marriage, not reciprocating her husband's affection. Shortly after their daughter was born, Yulin was diagnosed with breast cancer and had to undergo a double mastectomy. This shock initially devastated her, but she then threw herself into her work, leaving household chores and childcare almost entirely to Zhao Tai-ren. In 1990, Yulin transferred to B.u.r.y Primary School in Nanchung, her father's hometown. 2 years later, Zhao Tai-ren was also transferred to Nanchung Coal Mining Company as a middle manager. Moving from the countryside to the city, Yulin poured herself into her work, simultaneously studying a distance learning program in mathematics at Nanchung Institute of Education, earning a college degree. She then continued to pursue a bachelor's and master's degree at Xihua Teachers University. In 1996, Yulin participated in a national primary school mathematics teaching competition in Zhuhai and won a special award. This achievement earned her the position of vice principal in charge of academics at Yan Onlu Primary School. However, as Yulin's career blossomed, her marriage fell into crisis. Being a workaholic, she paid little attention to her family and daughter, while Zhao Tai-ren, with his gentle, tolerant nature, took on the role of a domestic husband. Yulin often showed disdain and criticized her husband for his perceived lack of ambition. In 1999, after being pressured by Yulin many times, Zhao Tai-ren agreed to a divorce. According to the agreement, Yulin gained custody of their daughter, 2 apartments, and most of the family's accumulated assets, leaving Zhao Tai-ren with only 1 house. However, because their daughter had just entered middle school, they agreed to keep the divorce secret from her and their relatives, continuing to live together until she was admitted to university. After the divorce, Zhao Tai-ren repeatedly asked Yulin to reconcile for the sake of their daughter, but she firmly refused. To completely quash her ex-husband's intentions, Yulin changed her daughter's surname from Zhao Jiaman to Yu Jiaman. In her heart, Yu-Lin always cherished a dream that once her daughter grew up and became independent, she would find an outstanding man to spend the rest of her life with. In 2005, Yu-Lin officially became the principal of Non-Lu People's Primary School. That same year, her 19-year-old daughter Yu Jiaman was admitted to a prestigious university in Shanghai. Yu-Lin immediately moved out and officially announced her divorce. During this time, many friends introduced her to potential dates, but none caught Yu-Lin's eye. During the National Day holiday in 2006, through a friend, Yu-Lin met Wen Xianli, the general manager of Xinli Real Estate Company in Nanchong. Knowing that Wen Xianli, born in a poor rural area of Xixiong County, had only finished middle school but had strived to become a billionaire with assets worth billions of yuan, Yu-Lin felt as if she had found the man of her dreams. In their first conversation, Yu-Lin did not boast about her superior circumstances but frankly shared that she had lost both breasts due to cancer surgery. She told Wen Xianli that if he felt he could not accept this, they should end their relationship from the start. After hearing this, Wen Xianli simply laughed and said he did not care about having children, and he himself was poorly educated and wanted to be with Yu-Lin to learn and apply knowledge to his management work. This statement moved Yu-Lin, making her feel that he was a man with vision, worthy of entrusting her life to. However, in reality, Wen Xianli had already known about Yu-Lin's personal and family background. Through friends' introductions, beyond her reputation as a primary school principal, what attracted him the most were her two brothers, one holding an important position in Guang'an City, the other being the deputy director of a provincial office. Wen Xianli believed that his relationship with Yu-Lin would bring great benefits to his career. Just 2 weeks after meeting, the two quickly discussed marriage. However, a close friend of Yu-Lin, who knew Wen Xianli's true nature, warned her upon hearing about their quick wedding plans. She said that Wen Xianli was a playboy with many scandals, had been in the social world for many years, had a hot temper, and was ready to disown acquaintances. He had been divorced 3 times. She believed that, with Yu-Lin's personality, they would certainly not get along. Additionally, Yu-Lin had also heard many negative rumors about Wen Xianli. But those warnings and cold water could not extinguish her determination to marry. On November 4, 2006, less than a month after meeting, Yu-Lin and Wen Xianli held a grand wedding, officially stepping into their fateful marriage. After the wedding, the couple initially rented a room at the Tu Lalan Hotel on Renmin Zhonglu. A few months later, Wen Xianli renovated a 220 square meters duplex apartment at Pingfu Yuan on Taoxiang Road, which he had bought a few years earlier as their new home. Yu-Lin also contributed hundreds of thousands of yuan, along with her husband, to buy a BMW 730 as dowry, registering the car under Wen Xianli's name. In his spare time, Wen Xianli loved driving the car with Sichuan license plate E588888, taking his wife to visit nearby scenic spots or enjoy luxurious places in the city. The early days of their marriage were filled with happiness, making Yu-Lin immersed in the joy of new love. However, after some time living together, their strong personalities began to clash, leading to frequent small conflicts. It was then that Yu-Lin realized her friend's warnings before the wedding were true. Wen Xianli was essentially a nouveau riche who had risen from the underworld, and his rude nature had not changed. By then, retreat was no longer an option, so Yu-Lin had no choice but to put all her efforts into supporting her husband's career, hoping for mutual benefit and building a reputation. Yu-Lin began to leverage all her connections to help Wen Xianli secure projects and loans. In the summer of 2007, thanks to Yu-Lin's support, Wen Xianli successfully won the bid to develop the Haowangjiao real estate project in Xixiong County with a construction area of over 50,000 square meters. However, during construction, the project faced a severe capital shortage. To help her husband overcome the crisis, Yu-Lin not only used all her savings, about 1.2 million yuan, but also borrowed an additional 1.4 million yuan from friends and relatives, totaling 2.6 million yuan to help Wen Xianli. After transferring all this money to Wen Xianli's account, Yu-Lin frankly told her husband that only a small part of the money was hers. The rest she had borrowed and had written debt notes. Additionally, Yu-Lin suggested that Wen Xianli write her a commitment letter to facilitate future resolution. However, Wen Xianli said they were husband and wife, and since she had already written debt notes, he did not need to write anything else. But Yulin was extremely clear-headed at that moment. She said she had set up dual control when transferring the money to Wenxian Li's account. If he did not write the debt notes, he would not be able to withdraw the money. Cornered, Wenxian Li had to write 2 debt notes, one for 1.2 million yuan and one for 1.4 million yuan, while justifying that he was only joking earlier. In 2008, despite difficulties in the real estate market nationwide, Wenxian Li's Zhonghai Zijing Yuan project in Xixiong County still sold many apartments thanks to its favorable location and reasonable design. According to Yulin's preliminary calculations, the project's investment costs had been recovered. However, by October that year, Wenxian Li had only repaid the 1.4 million yuan that Yulin had borrowed from relatives. But the 1.2 million yuan of her own money was not mentioned. A few days later, Yulin hinted to her husband that their daughter's education expenses in Shanghai were costly, and she did not have enough money to support her. Their daughter even had to call her father for living expenses. Yulin hoped that Wenxian Li would repay the 1.2 million yuan. Hearing this, Wenxian Li replied with surprise that as husband and wife, why would she ask for money back? Moreover, his company was losing money and did not have funds to repay her. He even promised that he would buy her a Ferrari once he made money. Faced with Wenxian Li's response, Yulin was stunned and felt angered, believing he was deceiving her. But Wenxian Li nonchalantly said that whether she believed him or not was up to her. Yulin's subsequent requests for money led to frequent heated arguments within the family. Wenxian Li even threatened that he had enough evidence of Yulin abusing her position as principal to embezzle and accept bribes, and if she pushed him, he would report her to the Discipline Inspection Commission. He also had incriminating documents about her 2 brothers. After that, Wenxian Li moved out, rented an apartment in a nearby residential area, and rarely came back, sometimes disappearing for 10 days to half a month. By the end of 2008, feeling there was no other way to recoup her financial losses, Yulin filed for divorce in the Xuankang District Court, hoping to divide the joint property acquired during their marriage. However, the court's investigation revealed that Wenxian Li's company was not only unprofitable but also deeply in debt. This information left Yulin in despair. She realized that the whole affair was a trap set by Wenxian Li to leave her empty-handed, not even recovering the money she had lent him. In court, Yulin accused Wenxian Li of intentionally transferring company assets to evade seizure, but he firmly denied it. Wenxian Li agreed to the divorce but only proposed compensating her with 1 million yuan, a figure not even close to the money she had lent him. Yulin resolutely refused, and the two reached an impasse. After the Lunar New Year in 2008, a friend of Yulin said that Wenxian Li was having a close relationship with a sales clerk at his company. Although aware of her husband's flirtatious nature, this news still made Yulin jealous. She then frequently drove to follow Wenxian Li, even staking out the apartment he rented, but could not catch him with any woman. On the evening of May 29, 2009, after work, Yulin walked to her mother's apartment in the Chengwei Collective on Beihu Road for dinner. Upon arrival, she was surprised to see Wenxian Li's gray BMW 730 with Sichuan license plate E588888 parked in the yard. Approaching closer, she found the car door unlocked and the key still in the ignition. Remembering that she had contributed the majority of the money to buy this car and that Wenxian Li owed her money, Yulin decided to consider this as compensation. She quickly got into the car, drove out of the collective, and went to a friend's house to discuss how to handle the car. Upon getting out, she accidentally noticed a few blank sheets of paper on the dashboard. Curious, Yulin picked them up to read and immediately turned pale. The papers were a letter written on 5 A4 pages, beginning with, "To my beloved husband." The letter was signed "Your loving wife, Van," and dated May 20, 2009, just a day before. The letter was filled with affectionate words, even revealing that they had spent 5 passionate nights together. This discovery left Yulin extremely furious, feeling betrayed both emotionally and financially. Since then, the tension in their marriage grew increasingly intense. In fact, this incident had already been recorded and resolved by the police earlier. When he was alive, regarding the incident where Yulin took his BMW 730, Wenxian Li had reported to the police, stating that on the night of the incident, he had been drinking with friends. While driving past the Chungwei Collective on Beihu Road, he suddenly remembered that he hadn't visited his mother-in-law for a long time and decided to drop by. In his inebriated state, he forgot to lock the car and remove the keys before heading straight to his mother-in-law's apartment. Unaware of the divorce dispute between Wenxian Li and Yulin, his mother-in-law asked why they hadn't visited her together for a long time. When he went downstairs, Wenxian Li found his car missing. After receiving the report, the Beihu police station checked the surveillance cameras at the collective and discovered that it was Yulin who had driven the car away. Later, some residents living around Nanlu People's Primary School, where Yulin worked, reported to the police that Wenxian Li had caused a disturbance in front of the school gate. The school security guard stated that Wenxian Li was drunk at the time. He came to the school gate, cursing Yulin and demanding that she return the car. The security guard tried to intervene, saying that the principal was not at school and advised him to go home and resolve the matter the next day. However, he continued to shout and kick the gate. His anger escalating, Wenxian Li picked up a large stone used to secure a vendor's umbrella and threw it forcefully at the school's electric gate. The security guard and surrounding people tried to stop him, but he continued to vandalize, repeatedly throwing stones at the gate until it was deformed. However, by the time the authorities arrived, Wenxian Li had fled the scene. Yulin further testified that after spending the night at a friend's house, she hid the BMW in the residential area where her friend lived the next morning and took a taxi to school. Upon arrival, she saw workers dismantling the gate that Wenxian Li had damaged. The incident from the previous night quickly spread, and rumors about Yulin began to circulate. People gossiped that the female principal had kept a lover and even stole her husband's car to run away with her lover. Rumors that Wenxian Li couldn't find his wife and car, leading him to vandalize the school gate, severely affected Yulin's reputation. Being someone who valued her image, Yulin felt extremely ashamed and helpless under the pressure of public opinion. That morning, the police came to the school again to persuade Yulin to return the BMW keys. Feeling coerced, Yulin reluctantly handed over the keys. However, this incident created more rumors. People said that Yulin indeed had issues and that the police had started investigating her. That morning, she received several calls from friends asking if she had been arrested. Yulin suspected that her firm and strong working style might have offended some people, and now someone was deliberately creating negative public opinion about her. Anger flaring up, Yulin fired the 2 security guards on duty the previous night, citing their failure to protect the school's property. That afternoon, Yulin returned home to find the house ransacked, belongings scattered, and some of Wenxian Li's personal items missing. She quickly guessed that Wenxian Li might have come back to look for the letter from the girl named Van that he had received earlier. Yulin took out the letter and read it again, feeling increasingly disturbed. She thought that Wenxian Li might come back looking for the letter and recalled the warnings she hadn't heeded before. The years spent with him not only caused her significant financial loss but also damaged her reputation. Feeling she couldn't endure any longer, Yulin decided to change the locks and take possession of Wenxian Li's 220 square meters apartment as compensation for herself. However, 2 days after returning home, she couldn't open the door. Thinking the key might be broken, Yulin called a locksmith to check, but the locksmith informed her that someone had already changed the locks. Realizing it must have been Wenxian Li, she requested the locksmith to replace the locks again. This continued until an afternoon in late June 2009, when Yulin and the locksmith were preparing to change the locks for the 5th time and were stopped by the security guards in the complex. The guards said that earlier that afternoon, Wenxian Li had come to change the locks and even called the police. The police from Beihu station arrived and confirmed with the security guards that Wenxian Li had shown the house ownership certificate, stating that he bought the house before marriage and was preparing for a divorce, so Yulin had no right to change the locks. The police informed the guards to prevent Yulin from changing the locks again. Immediately, Yulin called 110, and the Beihu police arrived shortly after. However, they did not accept her request. In her anger, Yulin lost her temper and began shouting curses. After losing possession of the house, Yulin felt immense hatred towards Wenxian Li. On the one hand, She feared he would report her to the Discipline Inspection Commission. On the other hand, she was certain he had acted wrongly in dividing the family assets, so Yulin did not dare to continue actively suing him for divorce in court. One evening in early July 2009, Yulin attended a birthday party for her friend Jiang Shuetong. There, she met a middle-aged man with dark skin, a handsome face, a strong and muscular build, who continuously poured drinks for her. Throughout the conversation, he affectionately called her Du Jie, making Yulin feel at ease. This man's name was B.u.r.y Ge, also known as B.u.r.y Jia, born on October 15, 1970, in Jiushui Village, Hejia Township, Daochuan County, Sichuan Province. He had only received primary school education. In his youth, B.u.r.y Ge served in the armed forces, specifically in the 8740 Armed Police Unit in Nanchung, holding the position of Special Forces team leader, with excellent combat skills, and had won the martial arts championship of the provincial military district. After being discharged, he wandered around Nanchung for nearly 10 years, then partnered to invest in real estate and the sand and gravel business. After that party, they both felt a connection and exchanged phone numbers. A few days later, in the afternoon, B.u.r.y Ge called Yulin to invite her for tea. Previously, with her proud nature, she might have refused immediately. But at that time, feeling very down and wanting to relax, she agreed. That afternoon, at a tea house on Fujiang Street, Nanchung, B.u.r.y Ge treated her with great respect, treating her like an older sister, making Yulin feel warm. She opened up and shared all the pent-up pain about her marriage with Wenxian Li. B.u.r.y Ge continuously consoled her and advised that with Yulin's position, ability, and beauty, she could definitely find a better man and didn't need to worry about that scoundrel, as he wouldn't meet a good end. Yulin realized that every time she was with B.u.r.y Ge, she felt strangely good. From then on, she proactively contacted him multiple times to go for tea and meals together. One night in mid-August, after meeting, it suddenly started to rain heavily. Du Ling took B.u.r.y Ge, who was 6 years younger than her, to the Nanchong Hotel on the Totan Street. Later, the two of them had sexual relations with each other. Since then, they met more and more often. Du Ling confided in B.u.r.y Ge about her deep hatred for Wenxian Li. She said that even if she had to lose everything, she would fight him. However, whenever B.u.r.y Ge advised her to divorce legally, Du Ling would reply that after the divorce, she would get nothing, and Wenxian Li would still report her to the Discipline Inspection Commission. If anyone helped her eliminate Wenxian Li, she would be eternally grateful, and the vast fortune left by Wenxian Li would belong to that person. On a day after the Chinese New Year in 2010, when the two were once again entangled in Du Ling's house, she cried in B.u.r.y Ge's arms and said, Ge, no matter how good you are to me, as long as Wenxian Li is alive, I will never be happy. Finally, B.u.r.y Ge promised the woman he loved, Du Ti, let me help you eliminate that bastard. You just need to lead me to him and I will take care of the rest. Even if one day this is exposed and I'm shot, I won't expose you. Du Ling, moved, tightly embraced him, and they had sexual relations again. Afterward, Du Ling found a full-body photo of Wenxian Li in a book and handed it to B.u.r.y Ge. B.u.r.y Ge stared at the photo of Wenxian Li and gritted his teeth, cursing, "You're trash, you'll die by my hands sooner or later." Du Ling said, "This can't be delayed. I heard his apartment in Xichong is selling very well, and the people of Xichong are cursing him for driving up housing prices. If we act too late, he'll move all his assets away." B.u.r.y Ge replied, "Then I will start tomorrow. You lead me to meet him." The next day, B.u.r.y Ge drove. Du Ling wore sunglasses and sat in the front passenger seat, giving directions. They arrived at the apartment complex where Wenxian Li was renting. Du Ling pointed out 3 cars belonging to Wenxian Li parked in the yard. B.u.r.y Ge used his phone to record the license plate numbers of each car. A while later, Wenxian Li walked out and got into a BMW, driving away from the apartment complex towards the north. Du Ling signaled to B.u.r.y Ge to follow him. Wenxian Li drove more than 30 kilometers to the Zhonghe Jing Yuan residential area, opposite the Xichong County People's Hospital, where he had developed. Du Ling looked at the high-rise buildings that were sprouting up, then said angrily to B.u.r.y Ge, If I hadn't helped him, he wouldn't have gotten this land. Now, how many buildings have been built here? And now he's pulling the rug out from under us. B.u.r.y also continued to curse Wenxian Li, saying that he had come up with a way to kill him by asking a comrade from Guangdong to do it. This person was a professional hitman and he would pay him. Du-Ling didn't need to worry. Du-Ling replied, "As long as it's clean and neat. With money, we can own this whole complex. If we sell all the apartments here, we'll make at least 30 million. B.u.r.y still firmly said, "Du-Ti, I only love you. I don't care about anything else." More than a month later, B.u.r.y told Du-Ling that his comrade had arrived in Nanchong and was monitoring Wenxian Li, waiting for an opportunity to act. B.u.r.y said that Hong Hua-zi could take someone's life as easily as stepping on an ant. He knew how to pressure acupoints and could do even more terrifying things. Du-Ling repeatedly reminded him not to mention her in front of Hong Hua-zi. However, a few days later, Du-Ling asked B.u.r.y to tell Hong Hua-zi to temporarily stop because the school had not yet paid the performance bonus to the teachers. She had offended many people, with more than half of the teachers in the school signing and sending a complaint letter to the mayor, even publicly posting the letter on a forum. If, at this time, the issue with Wenxian Li was not resolved, the negative impact would be too great. She then added, "But the plan will not be cancelled, just delayed a little. If not, let that bastard live a few more days." B.u.r.y had no choice but to send Hong Hua-zi back to Guangdong. More than 10 days later, B.u.r.y arranged for his nephew, Lao Dingqin, and another young man named Li Binxi to follow Wenxian Li. He said that Wenxian Li was a bad man, a land thief, who had done unfair things to him in business, and B.u.r.y wanted to find an opportunity for revenge. After more than a month of surveillance, they had grasped Wenxian Li's routine and even found out the address where he was living with his mistress. However, because B.u.r.y and Du-Ling were in contact so often, the two men noticed their shady relationship, and B.u.r.y bluntly told them that Wenxian Li had harmed the woman he loved most, Du-Ling, and he would make that man disappear from the world. Upon learning the truth, the two men refused to participate in the plan. One afternoon in early April 2010, B.u.r.y and Du-Ling were sitting at a tea house on the Sichuan River in Nanchong City, drinking tea, when they coincidentally ran into an old friend named Bai Cheng Dao. B.u.r.y immediately pulled Bai Cheng Dao aside and whispered, asking him if he dared to take someone's life in Nanchong, promising a reward of 300,000 renminbi upon completion. Bai Cheng Dao had just gotten married, and his wife was pregnant, so he needed money urgently and agreed right away, boasting, "Taking someone's life is not difficult. This is what I do. A few years ago, I killed someone, and no one knows about it now." B.u.r.y then handed him the photo of Wenxian Li that Du-Ling had given him, along with information about Wenxian Li's cars and their license plate numbers for Bai Cheng Dao to remember for future action. Afterward, B.u.r.y frequently drove his black cherry off-road car, carrying Bai Cheng Dao around the streets of the city. They discussed their plan while also monitoring Wenxian Li. After several observations, they discovered that Wenxian Li was keeping a beautiful, alluring woman in her 20s as a mistress in a house near the tax office on Telu Street. Wenxian Li often took her to a tea house 2 miles away called Xingshan Hongye to play mahjong. One late night in mid-April 2010, B.u.r.y drove Du-Ling to the area outside the Xingshan Hongye tea house to observe Wenxian Li's mistress. Du-Ling did not know this woman before, but when B.u.r.y said someone called her Du-Wan, she realized that this was the woman who had written a letter to Wenxian Li. Du-Ling immediately urged B.u.r.y to act right away, as otherwise, Wenxian Li's assets would fall into the hands of this seductive woman. A few days later, Du-Ling told B.u.r.y that she had asked a police officer friend how the police would handle a missing person case. Her friend replied that there were so many cases like this nowadays, with some people being murdered and then cooked in a pot before their bodies were disposed of in toilets. If the police couldn't find the body, they would only treat it as a missing person case, which wouldn't attract attention. After Du-Ling persistently urged him, B.u.r.y gave Bai Cheng Dao 20,000 renminbi in cash to buy an old black Citroën. They also prepared tools for the crime, such as a shovel and a knife. The two of them agreed that first, they would dig a large hole in the suburbs, and then wait for the right moment to kidnap Wenxian Li and bury him alive. ensuring no one would discover it. They began surveying the terrain in the Fengya mountain area, Jialong district, but found that the area had too many rocks, making it inconvenient to dig a hole. Bai Qingdao then suggested digging the hole at his hometown. At the end of April, in a secluded low-lying area on the side of the mountain near the Dao village in the Tanmiao township, Jialong district, the two of them dug a large hole, more than 1 meter long, wide, and deep in each dimension. When the hole was finished, Bai Qingdao arranged for 3 young gangsters, Yang Guangming, Ren Hailing, and Du Jindao, to participate in kidnapping Wen Xianli. However, he did not reveal to them Wen Xianli's true identity, only telling them that a brother had given him 20,000 renminbi and wanted to resolve a matter. They only needed to get the man into the car and hand him over to the brother. Bai Qingdao and B.u.r.y had agreed that once they kidnapped Wen Xianli, they would take him to the pre-dug hole and bury him, ensuring no one would know. One late night at the end of April, around 10 p.m., B.u.r.y called Bai Qingdao and said that Wen Xianli's car was parked outside the Xingshan Hong Ye tea house, instructing him to take action right away. Bai Qingdao called Ren Hailing, Yang Guangming, and Du Jindao, then drove to park about 30 meters away from the tea house. The 4 of them sat in the car and waited, agreeing that as soon as Wen Xianli left the tea house, they would immediately kidnap him. After midnight, Wen Xianli and his mistress finally left the tea house. Bai Qingdao prepared to drive closer, but suddenly saw 5 or 6 more people getting into Wen Xianli's car. So, Bai Qingdao had to follow behind, waiting for the right opportunity. Wen Xianli took these people home and then continued to drive the woman to a small house near the Tolu Street tax office. Bai Qingdao had to reluctantly abandon the plan for that night. At 6 p.m. on May 3rd, B.u.r.y called Bai Qingdao and said that he had driven around the city but had not spotted Wen Xianli, urging them to continue searching that evening. He couldn't let the matter drag on any longer. At that time, Bai Qingdao had just held a 1-month birthday party for his son and had spent quite a bit of money, so his finances were tight. He said, "After I bring the man to you, you must give me 20,000 renminbi up front. I'll share it with the brothers." B.u.r.y agreed. That day was the birthday of Bai Qingdao's friend, Liu Shijuan. After attending the birthday party at the Wu Zhou Shui Hui Hotel in Jialong district, around 8 p.m., Bai Qingdao drove to carry out the kidnapping and murder plan. They removed the original Beijing license plate E1778 from the Citroën and replaced it with a Sichuan plate ER3881, which Ren Hailing and Yang Guangming had stolen a few days earlier from a residential complex near Bingjiang Road. Then, Bai Qingdao and his group drove to the intersection near the Tolu Street tax office, just in time to see Wen Xianli and his mistress Duwen get into a dark green pickup truck with the Sichuan plate ER7313 and drive out of the residential area. Bai Qingdao immediately followed them. After successfully kidnapping Wen Xianli, Bai Qingdao drove out of Jialong City, heading toward the Jialong area. Du Jindao sat in the front seat, while Ren Hailing and Yang Guangming pushed Wen Xianli down onto the back seat floor, using duct tape to seal his mouth. Both of them stepped on his body and threatened him with a knife. However, Wen Xianli's legs continued to struggle, preventing the car door from closing for a long time. Ren Hailing attacked Wen Xianli's leg with a folding knife, making him unable to move. At this point, the door could finally be closed. After more than 10 minutes, the Citroën reached the outskirts of Jialong, in the town of Shiheng. Bai Qingdao turned into a quiet side road and stopped by a pond. He instructed Du Jindao and the other 3 to tie Wen Xianli's hands and feet tightly with duct tape. Afterward, he got out of the car and walked to a quiet area about 30 meters away, calling B.u.r.y to report that the target had been kidnapped and requesting the payment of 20,000 renminbi. He also asked for another vehicle to transport the captive, as the Citroën was too old, and the roads in Tanmiao Township were bad, which could cause the car to break down. Half an hour later, B.u.r.y drove a cherry car and secretly met Bai Qingdao. He handed over 20,000 renminbi but mentioned that he couldn't borrow another car. According to the original plan, only B.u.r.y and Bai Qingdao were supposed to take Wen Xianli to the pre-dug grave to dispose of him. However, at this point, B.u.r.y was worried about being exposed and didn't want to use his cherry car for the transportation. So he returned to the city. Bai Qingdao gave 20,000 renminbi to Du Jindao and Yang Guangming, instructing them to return to the city to rest, while Ren Hailing and Bai Qingdao continued to use the Citroën to transport Wen Xianli to Tanmiao Township. Unexpectedly, at around 11 p.m., the Citroën broke down and couldn't start at Lilac village in Jialong. Bai Qingdao called B.u.r.y, who had managed to borrow a dark gray car from a friend named Zhang Fu Chuan in Jialong. After driving the car over, they transferred Wen Xianli into it and continued toward Tanmiao Township. Around midnight, they arrived at a mountainous area in Daogo village, Tanmiao Township. B.u.r.y hid the car in a secluded area. The three of them took turns carrying Wen Xianli, using a mobile phone for light, and slowly made their way down a ravine. It wasn't until about 2 a.m. on May 4th that they found the hole they had dug more than 10 days earlier in a secluded area nearby. Wen Xianli was thrown roughly to the ground, and when he regained consciousness, he immediately saw the large hole next to him, making him tremble in fear. At this point, the duct tape that had bound his hands and feet had fallen off. Wen Xianli quickly crawled to his feet and tried to run toward a small path. However, due to the injuries to his legs and the loss of too much blood, he couldn't run fast. He was caught by Ren Hailing, who grabbed him by the collar and forcefully threw him to the ground. Ren Hailing found a stone in the grass nearby, handed it to B.u.r.y, and signaled him to strike Wen Xianli's head. B.u.r.y was worried that if Wen Xianli's brain splattered, it would be difficult to clean up the crime scene. So he threw the stone at the victim's face and then pulled down Wen Xianli's pants to cover his head and face. Afterward, he lifted his right foot and stomped on the victim's face several times. Bai Qingdao continued to use the stone to strike Wen Xianli's head through his pants until he became motionless. The three of them then dragged Wen Xianli and threw him into the hole. Bai Qingdao was worried that he hadn't yet died, so he used a folding knife to stab Wen Xianli in the back 8 times. Afterward, Bai Qingdao and Yang Guangming used a metal shovel they had prepared earlier to cover the hole with dirt. Once the hole was filled, Bai Qingdao instructed Ren Hailing to plant a small tree on the grave and scatter some grass around it to conceal the crime scene. B.u.r.y searched Wen Xianli's pocket and found more than 300 renminbi along with a blood-stained receipt. B.u.r.y asked Bai Qingdao to burn these items and jokingly said it was like burning gold for Wen Xianli. B.u.r.y also added that after leaving Chengdu on the evening of May 5th, B.u.r.y heard a lama accompanying him saying that the first day was very dangerous, but from the 5th day onwards, there would be no problem. Due to financial difficulties, on the morning of May 7th, B.u.r.y asked his nephew Li Dingchen and his contact Bu Li to drive him from Chengdu to Nansung. In the afternoon of the same day, he called Du Ling asking to meet and borrow money. However, Du Ling felt it was dangerous and firmly refused to meet him, advising him to run far away. She gave 20,000 renminbi to Lian Yixi and asked him to transfer it to B.u.r.y on the morning of May 9th. Hearing that the police were looking for him, B.u.r.y felt the situation was unstable and asked Li Dingchen to drive him to his comrade Wan Shanhong's house in Sanhe village, Qizhou town. There, he disguised himself as Wang Ka and hid in Wan Shanhong's house. From May 13th, he and Wan Shanhong went fishing by the Wu River in Taido village, Sanhe town. On the afternoon of May 18th, unable to contain his longing, he called Du Ling to tell her about the hardships of his escape. Du Ling replied that no matter how long it took, she would wait for him and advised him that if he was caught, he should never reveal her involvement. B.u.r.y assured her that even if sentenced to death, he would never betray her. Du Ling said that after that phone call, she had no idea B.u.r.y had been arrested. On the same morning, she officially took over as the chairwoman of the board of the Xinli Real Estate Company, founded by Wen Xianli. After Wen Xianli's death, Du Ling showed deep sorrow, acting as if she could not live without him and took care of his family, people she had never cared about before. She visited and comforted Wen Xianli's parents, who lived more than 30 kilometers away in Shisung City, and repeatedly promised to be their daughter. Pretending to be a grieving widow and a filial daughter-in-law, after gaining the trust of Wen Xianli's family, on May 18th, more than half a month after Wen Xianli was murdered, Du Ling felt the situation had calmed down. She hurried to Shisung City to gather company staff, announced the cancellation of the old company seal, and asked everyone to elect her as chairwoman. She also clearly demonstrated her advantages. Finally, she successfully took over her husband's company. In the end, all the criminals were caught by the law. On the morning of December 29, 2011, the Supreme People's Court of Nan-su announced the first instance judgment for the defendants in the murder case of Wen-Xian Li as follows. Du Ling was sentenced to death, deprived of political rights for life. Bai Qingdao was sentenced to death. B.u.r.y was sentenced to death, but his execution was postponed for 2 years, deprived of political rights for life, and his sentence was reduced. Nam Hai Lam was sentenced to 15 years in prison, deprived of political rights for 5 years. Lian Shi and Lading Chen were each sentenced to 3 years in prison for crimes such as illegal detention and intentional destruction of property. Jung Kwang-min was sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison, and Do Jin-dao was also sentenced to 3 years in prison. On October 18, 2013, the Supreme People's Court of Sichuan Province made a final decision to uphold the death sentence for Bai Qingdao while reducing Du Ling's sentence to death with a 2-year postponement of execution. After reviewing the case, the Supreme People's Court concluded that Bai Qingdao's actions were intentionally aimed at taking someone's life, constituting the crime of murder. In this joint crime case, Bai Qingdao was the organizer and the one who directly caused the victim's death. Thus, he was the primary perpetrator facing the most severe criminal responsibility. On June 13, 2014, the Supreme People's Court approved the Sichuan Provincial Court's decision to uphold the death sentence for Bai Qingdao and ordered the execution of the sentence. On October 11, 2014, Bai Qingdao was executed in Nansung, bringing an end to an extremely complex case. What are your thoughts on today's case? Although Wen-Xian Li was the victim in this case, when looking at the situation, he absolutely deserved the fate he received. While we do not condone Du Ling's actions of killing someone, Wen-Xian Li was the one who caused all the misfortune for her. He was a despicable, contemptible man who took advantage of others' kindness and schemed to seize everything. He not only exploited others to their limits but also pushed them to the point of no return. However, if Du Ling had lived with integrity, she would not have been threatened by him regarding her career. But if she had remained calmer, Du Ling could have accepted the mistakes she made in her work and exposed Wen-Xian Li's true nature, which would have prevented this tragedy. Moreover, this may be a form of karmic retribution for what she caused to her unfortunate ex-husband. Through this verdict, we want to send a message to all of you. When you have a family and a spouse who is always willing to sacrifice for your success, be grateful to them. Do not trample on them and lead to separation. Do not be naive and trust just anyone. Be clear-headed and carefully consider the advice of those who care for us. Also, do not exploit or oppress others for selfish desires, as it will lead to tragic outcomes. What are your thoughts on today's case? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below so we can discuss it further. Thank you for watching today's video, and before you leave, don't forget to support the dark cases of Asia by liking and subscribing to the channel to see more thrilling cases. Goodbye and see you in the next video.